Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Whining On. My name is Matthew Bowden, the Incorrigible Rogue, and today I am here once again with the fabulous, very lovable Paul Morocco. Hey Paul, how you doing? Before we begin, Matt. Before we begin, mate, I'd just like a quick rerun, very fast for a couple of minutes, just over how the last interview went. Some of the things people, if they look back, can listen to.
Yeah.
Could you use a little bit? Thank you. So, in the last interview with Paul Morocco, we had him in a restaurant, juggling lemons, feeling like a fish out of water. He then went on the street, impersonated a blind man to get on a bus. He tried to get a guy with a hook for a hand to juggle. He got pissed on by a lady. He became a chauffeur doing shows as a chauffeur. And then his car got stolen by the government. His dog got stolen by the government. He was penniless. And then he took to the streets again. And then became one of the greatest stars in the world. And I ask you all, if you haven't yet, please listen to that interview. It's absolute joy. I listened to it again today. It's a pleasure. But for now,
that old joke again. Hey.
How you doing, buddy? You good?
Well, I'm just impressed that you remembered all of that. It does sound a bit, but that's only about 5%, actually.
Oh, I would say it was a 2.5 hour interview. It was probably not even 5% of the stuff that went on.
Yeah, but we all have our stories. But it's just, if you add up all your stories, like if everybody could remember all their stories, just imagine the tapestry of silliness and fun and frolicking and foiling and boiling and frozen, and it's I think that's what all street performers can definitely say. They didn't live life boringly and become another sofa next to a TV set doing normality and being mundane and not making any change or effect on anything particular in life. But that's also okay, by the way. Nobody has to be a performer. I've decided recently, I'm having a conversation with myself, and then I'll pause. I just decided recently that it's fucking amazing being like having a normal life, I mean, like everyone thinks like, wow, they want to be performers and they're fascinated, because they never took that risk, or they never had that push. Maybe they were too smart, also some of them. But then for us, like for me, just to have like my daughters here, Rosie's come from Panama, and like I'm just cooking and I doing clothes and cleaning. Of course, she's pretty particular, so she's let me know that, Dad, I can't like live in your mess and stuff. Okay. so I mean, it became a thing. It wasn't just a funny thing. It was like, I spent 2 days cleaning and washing clothes and getting it just right. It seems a bit contrary for a parent to do that, but I wanted to show her that, Dad can be a dad too. It took me a while. Yeah.
Fair enough, buddy.
There we are.
Yeah. Great to hear that, and maybe we'll talk more about it as the interview goes on. I just want to get to this point of where we reached last time. So last time we reached, you were in Covent Garden. You were kind of a big star. You were quite humble about it. I talked to the people after the interview, and they said you were amazing. They said when you first arrived there, they were shocked at how good you were, and you just improved and improved. And you were a star of Covent Garden. And then, as the story went, Steve Rawlins invited you to go to Jongleurs. And this is this video is the story of you taking as far as I can expect, is you taking your street experience and then slowly applying it to stagecraft, eventually reaching the point where you have Olé, this incredible sellout show, which is, a desired show for every festival.
Wait a minute, I have to get a towel. A second.
Okay. So
it's actually, it's really bloody hot. It's it's like 94.3 degrees today in Chicago. So well, the star thing, come on, man. Nobody's a star, but all right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly, buddy.
Yeah. But all right, I know what you mean. Yeah, we did. We were doing. I think what happened was when I got to London, I wouldn't say I had an original show because I was still doing like, juggling thrown by the audience, doing a love story with fruits and the big watermelon, the egg and stuff. Pretty much I saw other people do, but I did it with a new way. I kind of went more fruity, organic. But I think I had energy. I think that was the thing that I had. I could throw things really high, and I think that's what happened. And I had energy because I didn't know what I was doing. But yes, Steve was there graciously and doing his kind of like discipline every morning, practicing.
Was he furniture juggling at that point? I mean, I should check the dates. Really, have this on there.
He was doing no, that came later. If I remember, that was when he was at Jongleurs, and there were some pictures of the gentlemen jugglers on the walls at Jongleurs, and then I think he either got the idea, or someone, or John Davy, who was
the guy he trained with. They sat and developed it together.
John Davy was the manager of Jongleurs. He was the business manager, and of course, and actually it was. Oh man, it's terrible. Susan, I think, is the actual owner. It was that's terrible. So I even forgot she was the actual owner, and John was her husband. Maria, I think it was. Yeah. So anyway, so he would have seen the posters, and then on the posters they were like kind of 1920s type of thing, where you'd have the table, the chair, and the gentleman juggler thing, and I think that's what inspired him. But I can't remember the great detail. But yeah, he got me the open spot, which just pretty much turned everything around because.
And how did it feel when he offered you the open spot?
Oh man, it was amazing. I mean, that's like, the difference was in the States, people were like dogs protecting their territory a little bit. They weren't particularly friendly. You'd have a few, but in England, everybody was like really friendly. And I mean, as an American boy with a gold chain. It's funny, and who talked to people on trains, and who's loud, who was probably overconfident, overfed, and overhear, as they used to say in England. People were very nice, and I didn't know if they were. Yeah, you could tell that they were nice, but you didn't know behind the scenes how they really felt amongst themselves. But generally, everybody was really unbelievably. Nice, and Steve was exceptional in that group, and yeah, I was like, he told me about that he had been doing, and he was totally, sure, I can get your spot. And then after he spoke with John Davy, I went in there, and I remember this is one of the gigs I really remember, because I don't remember a lot of gigs, but this one was it was a 10-minute spot, open spot, and so I did. I think I did the ping pong balls. I did the fruit juggling, and I finished with a watermelon, an egg, and a fruit, which was like my big kick at the time.
And what was that like? Were you nervous going out there? Were people in the venue supporting?
I was totally nervous. I was like, I don't know. I think now we were crazily confident in those days. I mean. It's just weird. Like if I thought now to have to do all of that, I would be totally petrified, and I would talk myself out of it probably these days. But those days, I think also when you've been on the street and you literally you're worried about having enough money in the wintertime, surviving. You got all these other darker fears, even though you project confidence and everything's fine. And I think just like. A lot of those gigs, you just you don't even think about failure. You just have to do it, And so you do that thing where you go by the seat of your pants and you're just gonna go for it, And it's almost like action over motion over emotion and action over thought, over thinking processes. Because if you how much as you get older, you think a lot. You do more analytical.
Yeah.
And I think when you're younger, it's just it's like you go out to war. You know, you're the military guys. You know, your mobility. You got your things on. Let's go. You know, so you in a sense you're closer to the animal. You're just being simple. You're just reacting to your basic senses, to what you see, what you speak, what you do. Juggling, boom, 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 jokes, boom. You know, and it's really weird. That's a very special thing to have. You know, and we don't realize that. We don't realize that because when we see our first street performers or first jugglers or magicians or performers, you just think, shit, wow. You know, that's a special world. That's escapism, you know. You would just do anything to be able to do that because, you know, you're also, along with that means lots of things. It means you can go all over the world. It means you can travel. You can meet women. You can, mostly you can be, you know, you can have that thrill and maybe you can get the respect because you also realize at the end, like trying to do these normal jobs and stuff, if you're not suited for that, which certainly, I mean, most probably performers are not, or certainly I was not, you know, I just failed at everything. I purposely failed at everything. You know, I had a clothing store job, a supermarket job, a waiter's job. I just was useless, you know, and I get really depressed. And I thought, this is going to be my life. So I was just looking for those things. Anyway, go back to Junglers. So Junglers, that was that first night.
And can you set the scene there? What's the place like?
Have you been there?
No.
You never seen it? Oh man, it was like one of the greatest venues ever. I mean, it's like a rectangular. To me, it always looked like a coffin, an upside down coffin. You know, so it's a rectangular shape, and it's so for a juggler it's perfect because it's really high ceilings, and you got the stage pretty much close to the center. There was an entrance that used to come down. Used to come to walk in. You'd walk in through here, and then everybody was just around you. So it felt like you were a street performer. You know, when everyone's close to you, except it was rectangular as opposed to semicircle, and very, very, very impactful, very immediate.
What were the people like there?
Well, you know, they were your smarter set. You kind of we would have said yuppies in the old days. They would have been like, you know, middle class type. You know, like the Clapham, the London set. You know, and a lot of them would be in advertising, marketing, or you know, friends would tell. You could see it. They were in a really good mood, and we heard. I mean, slowly you realize that these are the places where agents would come and television researchers would come there. So if they start to see you there, they would grab you. I mean, the amazing thing for me was seeing all these huge stars go through Jongleurs because they were the same as the Comedy Store. You had the Comedy Store was more for the intellectual stand-ups. I didn't really like to have visual or specialty acts, jugglers. Junglers was totally into that. They would always have one of their specialty acts. So like Steve Rons, Lee Evans at the time was a stand-up, but he was also different because he was like doing physical stuff. And then you had God, come on, man. Shit, I just almost had it. Juggler, unicyclist, used to be the compere as well. Oh, I'll have to have names around me. And I just had it. It just went, okay.
When you talk about, was it Windsor? I mean, I know Windsor's a compere now. I don't know if he was a compere then.
No, he's Pierre Hollins. Yeah, that's him. He's a lovely guy. Juggler. He was back in the days with Tim Batt, Steve. Sean Gandini didn't do it because it was more comedy. Or the other visual acts. I can't remember all of them. But yeah, you had huge stars coming in and out of there. You had like, you had Eddie Azar, but you had he wasn't a regular at Jongleurs, but he would often do it. You had Bob Mills, you had Felix, you had, and then eventually you had Lily Savage, who became the non-transvestite.
Yeah, he's a TV presenter now. His name is, it eludes me.
Okay, you had I'm just terrible with names anymore now. You had God, yeah. Just you had just throw me names like Steve Coogan,
Yeah.
Paul Merton, um, the other comedian who went into the detective show. He's on this.
Alan Davies.
Alan Davis was there all the time. Who else was there? Steve Coogan we mentioned.
Would you have Stuart Lee? Is it Stuart Lee sort of time?
Stuart Lee came just a bit after that. Okay. Yeah, I met him around.
Julian Claret is someone that Haggis mentioned.
Julian Claret was there. Yeah, Bill Bailey, Rubber Bishops was there. He became. In fact, he was in the first Olé with me for 6 months, and I talked him into doing it, and he said, "Yeah,
we'll talk more about that in a little. We'll talk more about that in a little while because I know that we've got stuff to talk about. How did your first show there go?
So no, it went really well. Yeah, nailed it. Big physical comedy, juggling, throwing things high, energy, all that stuff. I probably was still a bit rough. I was still treating it like street. But the thing was that the street style worked really well there. Because that energy, that interactiveness made it seem more alive and more real. And not, I was never I was never like a stand-up style. I was never like lined up with jokes. I was much more physical anyway, and then I would just do like more improv, interactive jokes, or have a few lined up. No, it went extremely well. I just remembered after that, I was like, really, this could be my ticket. And then afterwards, he offered me some gigs, and I think I started within a few weeks later. Jugglers was the point for me. It was really what changed everything. That night, I met my first ex-wife, Beverly, and she said to me after the gig, she said, you could do really well here. Or said you could make a lot of money. I forget what she said. But she was this huge head of red hair, and she was like an agent. I thought she was an agent at first. So, I understood that that's what you had to do. You had to meet people and try to get gigs, because that's one of the reasons I came back to London as a street performer. Was always when I came to Covent Garden, people would offer gigs, maybe 150, 175, 125, 200 sometimes. But that, it was like, oh, there's something more secure than just passing the hat. So I don't mean that to say just passing the hat. I think passing the hat is the bigger art form. In fact, of course, it's hitting on another level. So that set everything in motion, really, because that meant I had a gig in the wintertime, particularly.
And how were the following gigs? How did you feel? Because obviously there must have been some kind of adaptation, even though your stuff worked comparatively very well when you bring it from one place to the next. There must have been a time of you readjusting the material and figuring out things. Oh, this works here.
I'm not so good on the memory of the technical transformation of street to stage, but I do remember that when they introduced you, there was this big rush, and you had the audience already waiting and clapping for you. So that was a huge boost, It was like, oh, I already got that, And then I think it was putting things in order, trying to figure out the structure, what first, what next, what's the finale, normal stuff. But I remembered, like, eventually I worked out a little thing with a guitar. That came later, but in the beginning, I think I think I just started talking and I had some jokes. I forgot, I made reference to being American and all that. Eventually, being American just wasn't very good in London. I remember, like, I wanted to avoid that, like, immediately people judging me as an American, not as a person first, and that was hard for me, by the way. To be like, because it's like you don't want to like stand out, you don't want to like, I'm American, you just want to be another artist performer and be judged on what you do, and if you're funny, or if you can juggle, or if you're entertaining. And I remember that being a little bit maybe that was also a chip on my shoulder, but it was also there, as soon as you open your mouth. So that's kind of why I went into visual comedy. Funny enough, I actually went into like coming out with a Spanish guitar, because when I was in Hawaii after that year, I think it was 88. So I started in Junglers in 87, I think. So within a year and a half, I went to Hawaii.
Why
Are we still following the? Well, we were doing trips. We were traveling. So you have gigs in Jongleurs, you have gigs here.
So you had a gig in Hawaii?
No. Okay, let me try to work this out chronologically. So from the Jongleurs, I got regular gigs. Then I started getting like some gigs at Hackney Empire, which was a big deal. Hackney Empire was where Houdini
big venue.
Yeah, it was very very alternative. There was Claire Muldoon and Roland Muldoon. They were running it, and it was part of like, they were doing the alternative culture stuff, the alternative arts. So you'd have a lot of street performers who went to stage. I'm sure Steve did it. Other performers did it, and it was it was a really cool. In fact, Hackney was like one of the only other ones I did. I tried Banana Cabaret. There was one. There was a few more, but I wasn't running around doing all the different comedy clubs and stuff. I just mainly did Jongleurs, Hackney, and did a few others. And then I started getting a few gigs around that. You started like getting offered things. One of the gigs that Jongleurs did within a year and a half, they got this contract with Thompson Sun Hotels in Palma, Mallorca, Ibiza, Formentera, the Iberian Islands, and you would just fly out. Yeah, this was a great gig for me. This was like, man, this was the gig to get. It was like they'd fly you out for 2-3 days. I think you would make something like £400. I don't think it was much higher. If I remember, it was 253, or was it maybe something later? It got to be 350 or. And you would go there, you'd have a day in the sun, swimming pool and all that. Then you would like have the sound check the next day, you'd do the gig. By the third day, you would fly back. And I just love those gigs. Those were just like divine,
Haggis mentioned something in the comments just now. Really sorry to interrupt. There's a comment here in the comment section where I can't help but have my attention drew to it. All the fruit. This is Haggis McLeod. All the fruit we threw at you at Variety Theatre in Leeds.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the time there was a juggling convention in Leeds, English juggling convention. Because before that, I had gone to IJA, International Jongleurs Association. I was there in Cleveland in 1981 when Anthony Gatto and Bobby May were on stage together. They came at the end. There was a huge standing ovation. It was like the youngest best juggler and the oldest best juggler. It was one of those beautiful moments. And that was in Cleveland. I went to Santa Barbara. A few years later, I'm gonna come up to what Haggis just said, and then Santa Barbara, we had there was the joggling competition, so that I got into that for a while, jogging and juggling, but it was at the juggling convention
juggling,
and jogging. Yeah, I was always looking for like some strange combination of stuff that really appealed to me, because it means I could do like sports and juggle, and you could just, it was always like trying to make juggling as part of your normal life. The same later with music and guitar. You would literally take your guitar for a walk. That's how I always thought about it. You should take your guitar for a walk. You should jog and juggle. You should drive and juggle. Just make it part of your life. And every time. And I'm sorry, I'm back. I'm going to forward back to Haggis.
It's okay, mate. It's okay. You go.
No. If I go too linear, I get like my brain gets screwed up, because I just become a transactional information. But okay, I want to rewind to the so the juggling conventions were really important because that's where you saw people that juggled like you never saw before, and then you see the performers during the show times, and you're just like amazed. And of course, the performers had less technique, but they were so entertaining, and so we're learning that it's not about the tricks, about the technical, it's about the performance, about conceptual, and that for every juggler who's in their living room juggling with plastic fruits and learning to ride the unicycle, to know that there was a big world out there, where jugglers had conventions, that just blew your mind. And so juggling conventions were important in a way. It's also your friends, colleagues. So going to Leeds juggling convention was really important to me because it was like I felt I was being included with English people, English culture. Just all these things were tying up. Covent Garden, junglers, getting to know England, being accepted. So going to this Leeds juggling convention was quite a big deal. They asked me to perform, big deal. Yeah. So I was there doing my fruit love story, which, by the way, I was reminded recently. Michael Marlin from Hawaii, which I'll tell you after, he reminded me that he used to do a story where the audience threw him balls. And I don't know if he was doing a love story or not with the balls, but he was doing some interaction with throwing and catching. He said to me, so I should give him credit because I said, really? I didn't remember that. But he said, yeah, you made it into a love story with fruits, but I actually had balls. But okay, anyway, important to give credit if there is credit.
Yeah, of course.
So when I was there doing this, because around London, my fruit love story was like it became, it was the first thing that kind of people were starting to talk about. That became a little bit of a sketch that people kind of in the business they kind of knew about. It was mentioned, and so it was like one of my best bits. So there I was, the convention, throwing my fruits to the audience, going to tell them the love story, and I know, you're playing to your cynics, right? Because other jugglers, they've seen things and. So I remember always feeling a little bit benevolent whenever I was doing the same act in front of people who would have already seen it. There was a little bit of uneasiness. But then again, what are you going to do? You want to show your best stuff? Probably. So I threw the fruits out, started to tell the story, and then when I went to ask for the fruits, I was literally probably 50, 70 oranges were being thrown at me from the audience, which was secretly planned, apparently, from Andre. Andre and I think Alex, they made it planned. When Paul asked for the fruits, everyone threw the fruits. So there I was on stage, and just everybody is in on the joke except for me. What?
Did you find it funny?
Well, they had a good time.
Yeah.
So I was. I had mixed feelings. On one side, I thought it was pretty cool that they had worked that out. Made me laugh.
I mean, that's love. People don't do that.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yes. Yeah. I think it was I took it mostly well. I think it was a little bit. Part of me thought like, you don't like it when the joke's on you a little bit, but then again, just come on, just enjoy it.
Did you throw your props down and storm off stage, or?
No. I'm never like. I had a tinge of like, but more with a sense of humor, like you bastards,
Well, Haggis has just said that you caught the fifth orange, apparently.
That's
quite
good.
A detailed memory that he has there.
Haggis is amazing, actually. I'm surprised after all the partying. I guess he always stayed on the earth a bit more. I don't know what you do to get your memory good like that, Haggis. I'm gonna have to do something about that. Well, stop smoking anyway.
Well, that's very good.
Eh?
Very good. Congratulations.
I did it 81 times. It's easy.
Give it up, Steve.
It's called Alan Carr Easy Quit. It's really fucking easy. Until you have the next cigarette.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so you're developing at the moment. You're putting this show together. You've done indoor gigs. You've got this gig going around the world, and you've now ended up making your way to Hawaii. We were sort of bridging from there to Hawaii.
Yeah, there's a little bit more in between after that. So jongleurs started getting like extra corporate gigs. Got like started getting little TV spots, which is a big deal. And
so what were you
show called? Like? There was a show called Fridays. That's the news. Friday 6 o'clock. Friday 6 o'clock news, and some hugely important person who I can't remember his name. He used to do That's Your Life. This Is Your Life.
Oh, Kenneth. So Kenny.
Really going way back. Bloody hell, that would be like 80. 86.
I can remember the bloody theme tune. Da, 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 and This Is Your Life.
Yeah, I think he came on later doing that. But, yeah. You see, my brain's not good. So, remember shit. It will come back. It will, like, weave in and out. Anyway, I just remember doing that show. And, again, it was about the fruits, you know. I think Beverly had an idea to like, or she helped me make these. I had a fruit shake. I had a Tutti Frutti, Carmen Miranda. So we took these fruits and we dressed them up as different characters. And they were doing a segment on all the tropical fruits coming to London. And then I did that. And then later they came back and did another story with me about the dogs.
Before we go on.
Yeah.
What was the experience? What was the experience like? I mean, had you done TV before?
No. It was for me, at that time it was really amazing. Actually, amazing. Because it was like scary, and I just remember like. You know how it is before gigs. We tend to like try to get our train of thought, try to get calm, centered, focused, prepare everything. But this was like on even another 2, 3, 4, 5 levels to where I knew it was important. I knew it was important.
Were the people around there buffeting you, supporting you, trying to, in the term, not spook the act? Were people very supportive around you? Were you cushioned?
Do you mean in the TV studio or my personal friends?
No, the TV studio. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you get the researcher person who's really always nice. You know, they're like paying so much attention to you. And are you okay? Is that all right? Okay, we'll send a taxi for you. Yeah, okay. And they'll talk, and they're your best friends. And I think that's what it was mainly. Is like people paying attention to you. Like how often. We're alone, dealing with our own insecurities, and if we're not in our country, we're not with our family. Eventually, I had, I was married with Beverly, and then I had married with Sandy.
So, do you think that helped? Do you think the cushioning that they gave you, the pleasantness, helped your mind and your anxiety?
Definitely. I mean, you'll find that with everything, even like these tacky. Britain's Got Talent and all these kind of shows. They do that. They have learned the art of putting you at ease, making you feel comfortable, making you feel special. They want the best from you, so they're going to put you in the best mood. It's almost like they're trying to seduce you, in essence,
Yeah.
They're trying to put you in your very best energy, so that you can give the best performance, and that's cool, that's what you want. And
so what was your second gig like then? The second time you went on telly?
Yeah, well, I don't remember like first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and all that, but I just remembered once it started, what happened was that other TV researchers would talk to other TV researchers. There was like the scene of people. And then pretty quickly, your name gets thrown around, and they see that you've done that, and then can you do this? Can you do this? And as long as you deliver a good enough performance, it doesn't have to be the best performance, but you can't you can't have bad performances more than a couple times, and then it goes down. And I remember having some So I mean, I was obsessed with getting it right, getting every detail right. There was first of all, you're worried about your juggling. You're thinking about your costume. You're thinking about will it be too long? Will I hit the point? Will I look at the camera right? Will I look relaxed? Will I have fun? Will I be in the right spirit? It's like, even like before I do this interview now, I'm like, I was just gonna go swimming, and I was just kind of going slow, and I've learned to be lazier, but I get things done. And all of a sudden, oh right, and it felt a little bit like a show thing, but it's not a show. We're doing real, but
it is a show, but it's a show without the farce. It's your actual story, your actual experience. But
yeah.
It's got an element. I remember I talked to a couple of other people who finished the interviews and said, they appreciated the rush of being watched and conveying things, performing.
Yeah. It's got the parallel to show is the heightened emotion. It's the sharpening of being on the point, focusing on things.
Yes.
That part is the show, but then the rest is just being real. But you don't want to be so real and be depressing and boring, which we can be.
I have no idea what you mean.
But no, it gives you a kick. We get that buzz, and I think that's what we're all missing right now. Really, it's just it's the thing that transforms us from normal human beings to gods. It's like, to me, I always think of it like, and I mean God as in a greater version, greater spirit side of ourselves. It's when
you mean it more like the Greek gods as opposed to the gods, the god.
Probably Greek gods are nicer. It could even be more the native Indian. Like they see God, and they see the gods in the tree, and the soil, and the sea, and the coyote, and the moon, and these are all part of the same. And I like, I like that kind of thing. But yeah, Greek gods are good as well. Why not? But it's what is it about church and theater? What is it about that? Because when I was in Italy, a lot of we performed in specially made theaters in the 1800s. They built a lot of these, and then previously, but they made them like perfect for sound. You didn't need a microphone, and visually, and they're very close to the altar of churches and cathedrals. Same idea, it's that presentation. It's how to bring the energy force to move people and to and have power on people. Also, in terms of Catholicism, I'm going way off the plot.
Well, but it's a very interesting subject.
We're getting to the point about what this thing is, and it's without sounding too hippie. We're getting, we're part of the messengers, the shamanism, the magic thing. These magic people that are needed. Face it, especially now, we're needed because, okay, now the people are watching more TV and Netflix and whatnot. They're not watching so many live performances, which is a shame, because, people are like, we have functions. We go and we do services. We make things. We deliver food. We organize. There's the administration. Everything has to be sold. And people have this normal thing. They raise their families, and you pass it on to your young generation, and then they go on. And it's just. And in the process, well, what else should they do? They want to laugh. They want to dream. They want to come off their normal mundane curves, and it's hard to get normal people to have that special energy to lift people and to take them right off the normal thing. Anyway, going back to TV. Sorry. So it was there was what's that noise? Did you do that?
No, it's not me. It's a guy out on the street with a very large bicycle and a very small penis, just driving by.
I wish I could remember that guy's name, and it kind of pop into me. I was really good. But yeah, there was like there was lots of things happening at that time, and just getting children's shows. There was the Going Live. I remember doing Going Live, and I had a little boy, and I juggled him and a watermelon. And I just thought, oh yeah, I'm going to do a watermelon because it's bigger and more interesting. And I had a boy, right? So I juggled the boy and the watermelon, like you know, juggling a kid. You throw the kid from one arm to the next, right? But watermelon, different weight, okay. And then the second time, I hit his head with the watermelon. Literally, I went poof, and it literally hit his head. You know. Now we're not worried about that normally because jugglers like no big shit, but it looked bad. You know, it looked like, and then he started crying, and I remember some friends at the time were laughing. One of my friends, Boothby Graffo, the comedian, one of the best stand-up comedians ever. He's a writer now. He doesn't perform so much. But his son just laughed and laughed and laughed. I just thought that was so funny. It made the boy cry. I remember doing a show where it was a children's show, and there was the carousel. There was a character that was a carousel, and it's a very famous children's show, and I can't really remember. But her name was Rosie.
The Magic Roundabout. The Magic Roundabout.
Yeah, that's it. The Magic Roundabout. So the roundabout was called Rosie, and I remember literally Rosie was about to be born or was just born. I can't remember. No, I think she was just born. And so I got the script, and I'm talking to Rosie, the roundabout. And my daughter was Rosie, and I just remember that, you know, it was really, really touched me a lot.
Bit of synchronicity.
Yeah. So, so you know, during that time, 86, 87, you know, starting to get the name known, starting to do like festivals and the whole scene, and still mixing it up with street performing. Then around that time, before we went to Hawaii, come back to Hawaii, we did. We got an offer. There was all these street. This was while I was still doing Jongleurs. There was, and I remember I'd already done a couple TV spots, so I had some clout now. And then there was a group of Covent Garden street performers. There was a robot guy, and I can't remember his name.
Andy Sinclair.
Sinclair, yes, yes, the robot, and she did ballet, yes, and there was another guy with another name who did a kind of robot. I can't remember. There was also Beverly, my first wife. She had her dance group when in Rome. There was also a few other acts, and so we decided to form a group called London Mask, the London Mask Company. And at the time, Beverly and I mostly got involved with the business side. And we formed it mainly to get this contract from Orangina. Orangina, you remember the drink? Orangina?
Yeah.
Yeah, shake the bottle, wake the bottle, shake the bottle, wake up, wake the mind up. Wake the senses. And so we did like a tour around England, and so they gave us a big chunk of money. We built a stage, and we went around the festivals with that.
Did you get this offer or hear about this offer of the Orangina contract, or did you form the company and then go searching for a contract?
No, we heard about the contract, and then we formed the company in order to get the contract. Yeah. And then we got some other. I remember we got like a big gig with Thorn EMI, which was like a corporate thing, and we put together a show.
Before we move on, how did you get the Orangina contract? What was the process of it? Just for younger people who might be interested in the way in the 80s.
Gosh, and probably everything's changed. Someone from Covent Garden, one of the performers who had his ear around, and maybe an agent, you get to know a few people, then they would have told him, and he would have told me, him, and some of the other artists, and they were saying like, yeah, we got this possible contract with Orangina, and they want to do this big tour around the festivals, and so we want to get the contract. So there was like bidding for it. So we got together. We said, okay, here's what we can offer. We got all the promotion material. I mean, for any young people, besides getting your act together, which is the first thing, and I would say about that, it's it's a classic, trying to make it different, make it you, make it different, and explore how what's in you. Normally we borrow things first. We don't start from zero.
We learn by mimicry.
Yeah, I mean, your greatest performers or whoever, they had to start from somewhere, so they would have seen other acts, things, and had some kind of starting point. I remember Eddie Izzard, for example. He was going around listening to Billy Connolly stand up on cassette tapes. He was like for a year and a half just constantly listening to Billy Connolly tapes, and what he wanted to do was not to copy the jokes. He wanted to understand the structure, how you began, how you then link into the story, how you come back to the story, where you go on from the story, where's your, everything has got some kind of structure. The beauty of, I think,
he wanted to understand it like you'd understand. It's like the mechanics of it. He wanted to understand it like you understand how a machine works.
Yeah, because isn't it strange that you can't necessarily, you won't know that, but everything has got like a technical structure behind the emotional part of it. There's a running order. There's it's almost like it's an emotional blueprint. And it's not emotional, in fact, because it's emotional when you start performing. In fact, what it is here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end. And sometimes when you're dealing with a human being performing, it's got so much going on, you don't know what they're doing. You're following it. But of course, as we repeat little things that we learned, a lot of what we learn to improvise, stuff that we keep repeating. To me, it's always been it's like nature. Nature's organized chaos, and there's a mathematical formula for chaos. So it's really about patterns repeating. And when you get it, and the patterns can be whatever.
It's this kind of developing an intuition, because you can recognize the patterns forming as they form through, particularly on the street where unexpected things happen, where you develop that knowledge because of what you said, repetition.
Yeah. I guess when you develop that knowledge, you also, like with the street, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be informal, and then in the informality, you start to see patterns that are working. It's basically pretty scary, isn't it? You know better than me because you've probably done more street shows recently. But when you're out there, don't you or on the stage the same? You want to grab your strongest stuff that it's going to work, and you grab that out of.
The battle for me has been for a long time letting go of my strongest stuff because it works.
That's later though, but in the beginning. I mean, in the beginning, you want to I don't know. It was for me in the beginning. I just okay, that's gonna work. That's gonna work. But yeah, it's the beauty of it is when you start to enjoy the risk of not knowing exactly what's going to happen, and then when the audience can accept that you are experimenting, even though they might not know, and when you realize that the audience will still stay and let you play. I mean, that's the most beautiful, isn't it? And you're thinking as you're doing it. And you know what? When you do a show and there's other performers watching you, you want to also excite them, because they're also like you. If you're watching another performer and they do exactly what they're going to do each time, though that's why they probably got successful. At the same time, you want them to surprise you, don't you?
Just on this note, just as you say, and we are digressing, but it's an interesting digression, so I will allow it.
Thank you. Sans frontier. Yeah, we were talking. Yeah, go ahead.
Before, so success, and the successful artist may repeat things all the time, and it made me think of two words: performer, and the relationship there, because the performers don't tend to be successful.
Yeah. And I hate the word successful, by the way.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they don't tend to be able to sell themselves. It's
Yeah, I mean,
easy as someone who is less experimental. I mean, you're someone who is experimenting and stuff and kind of outside of that a little bit. You don't have a stock generic show. But I find that the people with the stock, at least from my perspective, bookers feel more comfortable with them because they understand what they're getting. You know, they know what's on the label. Whereas when you look at Brian Reed, who is one of my favourite shows in the world, it's not a sure ticket. It's not a sure ticket that it's going to work. He's going to do some stuff that they might not get, you know.
We used to love watching Brian for that reason, you know. I just remember, like, he was messy hair, and just didn't look like the performer. And we all loved the the antithesis, the anti-hero. He definitely was the anti-hero. And then I remember that one of the times I got surprised. He just pulled out this huge lighter with huge fucking flame, and like spilling out of his suit, you know. I don't know if he was doing a fire torch or something. No. Yeah, great.
And so you did this Orangina kind of tour. You did the contract. You bidded for the contract. You got the contract. You and your group, Masks, was it? London Masks?
London Mask Company. Yeah, but Matt, you were talking about this word successful. Can I just? I just want to finish on that because it's really the thing, isn't it? It's really you're getting into the beautiful gray area of professional or unprofessional. I hated to be called professional. If someone said to me before, "Oh, that's a really professional act," you know, that's like your Butlins or those tacky gigs. You want to be professional. You know, we didn't fucking do this to be professional. You know, we did this to be transformative. You know, to be like you say, performer. The stuff that's the stuff that really inspires you. However, over time, you know, if people see you as a high risk as a show in terms of contractual, right? If they don't know for sure they're going to get that, you'll lose work if you're improvising all the time. And of course, if you get known for doing improv, but it's at a really high level, or you know, it might not all be hit, but it's definitely got an overall level. It's going to be, you know, something special. Then those kind of bookers will want that, and then you can build on that, and you can become the best at that, you know, and then you can get more work from being the improvisational, not perfectly fixed and defined. On the other hand, if you just do the same show that everybody knows and you can deliver, and it doesn't have anything extra special, and you're not trying to like bring in new stuff or have that kind of edge, you will also lose work these days, because I think, you know, people can smell and see and feel when something has got genuineness, you know.
Is it like sincerity? They feel like it's not sincere from the person delivering it.
Yeah. What's the word? I said the word genuine, but there's another word, authentic. There you go. You know, we're all after, at the end of the day, I think to be really a good performer and to, you know, it's authenticity. It's like, you know, being true to what you are and what you have. And we all bullshit to some degree. I mean, you know, there's going to be some salesmanship, packaging, promotional packaging.
This 18-foot unicycle that I've rode for 38 years, or this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You'll never see me again in the world.
Yeah, or just building the imagery, and you know, what's really weird to me is how social media is finally everybody is their own freelance entertainer now. You know, we used to be special, right? We used to have websites. You know, nobody had a website unless you had a business or you were an entertainer. Now everybody's got their own website. It's called Facebook, Instagram. You know, everyone's selling their image, showing they're happy, showing they're special. Do you like me? You know, and this is driving. I just feel so sorry for the millennials and the next generation. I mean, we are so shallow. Oh my God, I I have this thing now, and I play the I play the wave because it's a wave, and nobody wants to sit back and be a negative person, because there's a lot of good stuff. Of course, you get what you get what you take out what you put in, but someone's telling us that we have to put it in. It's not really our choice. Oh yeah, you don't have to if you want, but then the way human brains and behavior works, you don't want to it's just it's a bigger force. But okay, that's my bitch about social media. Anyway, let's fast forward. Where are we going, Matt?
So we're with Orangina. We're touring Orangina. We've got the show, the London Mask Theatre Company. You're touring around. You just got the deal, and that's where we got to.
Yeah. So I told you about Hawaii. So after a year and a half to 2 years of doing jongleurs and then starting to be known and then doing little TV spots and stuff, I was in touch with my friend Henrik and Dave, Twist and Shout. They said, oh yeah, there's this community of jugglers. We're going to build this, we're going to buy this land in Hawaii, on the big island of Hawaii. And like, man, Hawaii, you just mentioned the word Hawaii. And it's like, and like hippie, bohemian jugglers going to Hawaii. Wow. I think that's just like one of those romantic stories that we all, we want to sign up to. And so at that time, money was coming in, booked a flight, and went there. There was Waldo Woodhead, there was or Benji from, there was Stevie G, there was a guy called Rinzer from Austria. He was a juggler.
Did you have was Robert Nelson there at that time?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, of course. I don't know if he was there from the very first when he came after, but yeah, he was definitely part of the scene. Graham was one of the guys who started the whole thing. That lovely man. Henrik was one of my best friends from Denmark, which I could tell you a story about leaving my dog, which I don't know if I want to get into. I'll tell you later. Anyway, so I went to Hawaii, and there were all these performers who I'd seen in different places, and there they were going in and buying property in Hawaii. And it was just incredible. You'd stay in a tent or a yurt. You were eating really healthy organic stuff. You had this lush color of green and jungle. And there's just very cool people. And to me, it was like these were some of the elite street performers from around the world who could afford to fly to Hawaii and not get paid for a gig. That was the point. And you either paid some money or you exchanged work. They were digging holes where they would build places to pee. What are they called? When you dig
latrines.
A hole for a
Well, my working class British lingo is shit pit, but I believe the nice is latrine.
Yeah, not so different from Glastonbury. They and then eventually they would plant a tree. That was the idea. And I remember we were eating. We were told to eat papayas. You had to, if you ate more papayas, you wouldn't get bitten from the mosquitoes because there were some huge mosquitoes there. And it was a thing, every night you go, you had these huge, and then you started to eat papayas. Someone said you need to eat at least 2 or 3, and it worked, It changed the chemistry of the skin, and the mosquitoes didn't want. Yeah. And there was a guy called Arsène Didier, and he was working with Waldo before Waldo went with Waldo and Woodhead. And French guy. Yeah. Very great street performer who went off to do a lot of the Renaissance fairs. In America, they have a lot of Renaissance fairs as part of the, like festivals.
It's something of music for a country that doesn't have history.
Yeah.
Or it just isn't engaging with their history, at least.
Yeah, it's that thing in the States, isn't it? It has to have a label, the Renaissance. Okay, then you can act like that, Then you're going to have these crazy performers. Of course, like the troubadours, You can't just have a festival, It's all about packaging and marketing. So when we were there, that was the big idea. Two things happened when I was there. This is the kind of stuff that is just really special. It is for me anyway. There was a workshop. A famous magician called Jeff McBride. Jeff McBride. He used to do the mask appearing, like kept changing his mask. The kind of Japanese.
I've seen that routine. That routine's beautiful.
Kind of a what was it? Japanese kubu. What do they call kubu? I don't know the word.
Kabuki theatre.
Kabuki, yeah, and that kind of style, and yeah, amazing. And he did a workshop, and we had I don't know if I told you this story last time. I'd be duplicating myself. But there was that's why it's in my brain forever. And so we had drums, and we just started taking a ball. I can't remember who thought of the ball. It would have been me as a juggler. And we started to bounce the ball on the drums, doom, doom, and then you hit the ball, hit the drum, boom, boom, and then we had 3-4 people, and yeah, it was fun. It was just very one of those things you do as a kind of workshop. And later, it occurred to me that the ball could be a ping pong ball, and the drum could be a guitar. And that was the first door opening of the whole Olé routine of the flamenco ping pong. You have the ping pong ball and the guitar, right? Of course, as a juggler, I always thought about objects as part of the performance. So then you play the guitar, spit the ping pong ball bounces off the guitar in your mouth, reaction, repeat, a little change, spit the ball up off the guitar, maybe two times, 2 balls in the mouth, swallow the ping pong ball, and this ping pong ball spitting was first person who did that was Michael Davis. He was on TV. He was on Saturday Night Live in the States. He was on Johnny Carson. He had some great stuff. I mean, he was really one of the big influential comedy jugglers. He did the thing where he had a bowling ball and a knife, and he would like have these long, very, very dry delivery. And he would have these long pauses, and he would say, so a lot of you are asking me which one is the most dangerous. And then he would put the knife on the floor, and then he would take the bowling ball, and then he would drop it. And then he had that great line, is there gravity or does the earth suck? And then he drops the bowling ball. Boom! It lands on the knife. And then he would do a routine with an egg, a bowling ball, and a knife. But he did the classic ones where you put glue on the ping pong ball, he throws it up, it lands, it sticks on his nose, and then he does that, and he starts to talk to you like Pinocchio.
And do you think was this old vaudeville that he picked up, or do you think this was something he sat and created?
Oh, it's definitely based on vaudeville. Yeah, I mean, he was a street performer, so he was like at that time. Was it Pier 47,
39,
famous pier in San Francisco. Yeah, it was a famous pier. I never saw it. I never knew what it was about. I just heard about it. Shame, because apparently that's where Butterfly Man, Michael Davis would have performed there. I even think Robin Williams was performing there at some point before. But yeah, these are like, yeah, it is a bit vaudevillian. What was the other word they call it in those days in America? In England, maybe vaudeville or music hall. Yeah. Music hall, vaudeville, exactly. Yeah, well done. So, tricks, performance, comedy based on juggling, physical magic. Yeah, it was really the style.
And so you're in Hawaii, and just quickly, if you contact Haggis, he says he's got a video of that workshop that you just talked about with balls and drums.
Really?
Yeah, so you can get to see it.
What a good source you are, Haggis, man. Yeah.
So this is where you formed what would be a core piece of your work for the years following, right?
Yeah, so the reason why I mentioned Michael Davis, thank you, was the ping pong ball spitting. That he was the first person I saw do that. Apparently, it was a guy called Picasso who worked in a grape vineyard in Italy. Italy, not Spain. Yes, and he learned to spit grapes, and he was the first one to do that trick with grapes, and then it went into ping pong balls. But I saw Michael Davis do it, so I took the ping pong ball spitting. I took the drum and the ball workshop, and I put those two together, and that was the first thing that I found. Like when I said about for younger people putting an act together, it's like you find something that's a little more you. In fact, the ping pong spitting wasn't brand new. Playing the guitar wasn't brand new, but putting those two together, and then forming a little Spanish character, silent character, and then adding some clown effects. That really was the breakthrough for me. That said, okay, this is a little bit different, And also for me, I always admired the visual performers. I just remembered it hit me, like touched my soul. I liked all the jokes and stuff, but somehow that kept things on the ground. It was when I saw these nonverbal, it did something else to me. It became more universal. You jump into countries, but that's a conflict because I like words as well. But
so when you say you meant silent so you were saying silent is more universal than spoken word because it's got the language.
Yeah. Well, immediately when you go to Germany, you go to Spain, you go to France, you go to Japan, the first thing you have to overcome is the language. So you have to use very simple English, like I would say Beatles level, love me do, really simple words. And then you have to go more visual, and that's what they do there. But even in England itself or English-speaking countries, I've just always loved there was always something very powerful about the unspoken thing, and of course that's with the guitar. I could use the music, but I like to break rules. So once I set up that we don't speak, then I want to speak as well, just because you don't want it to be the same.
Well, experiment.
Yeah, coming back to jongleurs. Once I got that routine with the guitar and the ping pong balls, that was my opening for jongleurs. That was my new thing I brought back to jongleurs. And I remember it being really scary because, for 5 years I carried my guitar around. Even in Covent Garden, I would put it there, but I never played it. I didn't know what to do with it. Finally, I had a link. I could use it as a character with juggling. And that was a big difference because also when I was in jongleurs, I would start coming in with the guitar looking Spanish. It was already funny. Like when I remember watching Steve Rollins' interview, he said when he found his character. For me, that was what I found, that I felt comfortable. And so immediately I could go on stage. I could already be in this character. And in a way, it was nice. I didn't have to smile. I didn't have to, hey, showtime. I had to I could go in there on a certain kind of quieter energy without trying too hard. And I would do that routine, and that got longer and longer. It became 10 minutes or 7-8 minutes. Before it was 1 minute. And that's what happens a lot when you're working on routines. Either they're too long that you prepared in rehearsal and it's boring, and you cut it back, which happens a lot. So you thought you had 2-3 minutes, but it was only 30-45 seconds really good. Really good. Or the opposite happened. You do something, immediately it's really good, and you want to do more of it because you see it's working, and you start expanding it. So that's what happened with this routine with the guitar and the ping pong ball. It was working. And I think eventually I would come out of it, and I didn't know how to transition back into the show from the silent character, which is almost serious-like, to now, okay, showtime, So I did something like, what was my line like? I'd say, I don't know what I did, but I'd say something like, but it's okay, I'm American. And the audience would go, oh, and it wasn't just a happy, it was like a disappointment, Oh, we liked you then, but now you're American.
You've almost trashed the character you've built as well, though, because you've built this Spanish, clownish, incredible, extra hyper real character, and then you introduce them to the human behind that character. And maybe that's where the disappointment comes, breaking the fast.
You cease to be a god now. You're just another human being.
Oh, you're human. Yeah.
Or you're in the fantasy character, which is quite interesting. Oh no, you bring it back to the down to earth. But maybe I just didn't have a very good transition because I didn't want to just continue juggling. That's the other thing. I don't know if you find, I'm just talking about the craft of performing, is how you go from fantastical moments where you're kind of like you're floating in a bubble and they're going with you, and then you got to that's really working, but then you can't just stay up there, Now you got to come back and say, okay, hey, I'm here, talk to me, You have to be real there.
But that's one of the things, I don't know, that I think it's one of the things I acquired last in terms of my craft knowledge, is to know when not to milk it, when not to get all the applause, when not to get the highest point of a routine. Because as a whole piece, it actually works better for you to undermine, at least on the street, undermine that end routine, undermine that huge big moment, because you want to easily transition to the next piece. And if you make this moment huge, it becomes so much more difficult to easily move through. So you actually scupper a bit of the end of your routine. You make it less good than it could be, as a way of easily moving from one place to another, not having that peak of expectation or pleasure. So
because you almost go so high, you can't come down. It's too drastic. So you don't go quite as high. Yeah, of course. Yeah, because when you peak and you come off the peak and the magic goes down. It's like, ugh, it's hard. It's better to keep it flowing, like a highway merging into another.
I read this thing on performance.net years ago, and when I first began, I used performance.net as a way to look. And one of the things it said was that when you get applause, you kind of put it in a bank. You get the applause bank, and you're looking for the interest in your applause bank. And you keep banking your applause, and then at some point you cash in, and that's when you want your applause to happen. And hopefully you get more than you put in because of the interest you accrue from suppressing the clapping, suppressing the expression.
You've just explained life. You've just explained from 0 to 75 or 80, if you're lucky, 85, 90, bloody lucky 100. You've just explained exactly life, it's really weird. And I know we're right off this chronological. Apologies for just, to me, what's interesting to have these chats is actually talking about the life the universe, in general life, because performing is indeed a very, very special thing. But it's also just another little capsule of the, it's like the tree, it's like the leaf that looks like the tree. It's Zen of something bigger, It's everything you can talk about that. It's a smaller version of a bigger thing. So what you just said now about applause bank and then being like interest. The one thing I've realized now with this Corona especially, and also older age, is, it's, in a way, if you run away with the fairies, as I have done, to be honest, and it's almost like you start to breathe the exhaust, and you start to think that you start to this emotional hype of the show, this like living on another planet, feeling like everything's so special, and then assume it's so special. I guess the lesson would be, is the glass half empty or half full? And
are you talking about believing your own bullshit? Is that the kind of thing you talk when that high of the show and the character and that thing it bleeds out and you sort of forget what real life is like?
I don't mean just believing the bullshit, but it's like constantly chasing the next idea, constantly chasing the performance. Like you want it so deeply, you want that special thing, and you start to live it. Maybe that's cool though. Maybe it's special. It just
you need to
take a bit.
Do you think maybe you need to do that to create? Because not everyone is creating this kind of work. Not everyone spends the time doing this. Not everyone is driven in that way. And at least my conceit maybe is that part of that is a kind of an identity or character that drives you in a way that other people don't.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I mean, there are some performers that just have, I mean, I don't think so, by the way, but let's say they have genius, right? Let's say they don't have to work so much and they're just blossoming full of ideas and it's all so good, but I don't think so. I think they all, like all the people that I've seen that are really good at what they do, they just had a discipline, you know? They had the work thing and they could balance the technical and the emotional so well, because whether it's with comedy, coming up with a new show, whether it's music, it's just, you know, they say that, you know, performing is it's 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. It's true. It's in a way, it's like it's about the fucking work, you know.
Yeah.
And if you're still doing the work each time, preparing things, sharpening things, creating things, and then you ride the emotional part as a performer. But I don't know. What am I talking about? I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about glass half empty, half full. I'm saying is that I'm not sure about this. I'm still figuring this out. Okay, I'm 59 years old. I'm still figuring it out. Like, somehow putting your investment eggs and saving them and not spending them and not dispersing them like the laugh bank. Somehow I wish I could have done more of that. But maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't be the person I am, and maybe that's just life. And, you know,
potentially,
as Malcolm Hardy said, fuck it. Anyway. Yeah. So,
talking about Malcolm Hardy, comedy clubs, back to jonglers and bringing out the ping pong routine and that becoming bigger and sort of becoming, I assume, by the show, it kind of consumes and pushes out everything else.
Yeah, I mean, once I had the guitar bit, that was like the door opening, and so eventually, I started getting little spots, and I remember like. Remind me if I talked about this before. Did I mention Jonathan Ross before without dropping names? No. I don't know if I did. Okay. So the big ones that were coming, and that was from like, you know, I had three main routines. I had the ping pong flamenco with guitar, Spanish. I had the fruit and egg love story, and then I had fire juggling, other tennis track, or the other, which was never, you know, it was more standard, normal. And I just remembered I got a couple gigs. Jo Brand was doing the circuit then, and she was a big name in the comedy club scene, and she was just breaking in television. She was wearing these kind of like university, just black shirt, black pants, a little bit drab, but that was her style. There wasn't the TV celebrity glam that she had become.
Was there a hint liked her there, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, she was always herself, you know. She was always like, I loved her style. She was really just you felt like much like people said about Eddie Izzard, you felt like you could be at a dinner party. You know, if you know her, the way she talks on stage is the way you would talk to where we talk to people normally, and that was quite refreshing in that time. And of course, she had her anti-fat jokes and stuff, but she was also. I think, if I remember correctly, she was a social worker, so she had another level to bring in. Yeah, and so that's important, because now you're talking about commentary on human behavior and having lived it, having had that experience. So yeah, she was a good person. But so she was around that circuit, and I did like a couple lower shows. You know, we did like Sky. We were there part of the London Mime Festival. No, I'm going back maybe a bit before that. So then I did a couple shows. She was on it. They were not big ones, but I remembered the first one I did. I realized that was a mistake. The transition was too slow, and I clocked that. I said, and I wasn't looking in the camera right. Didn't miss it. And then the second one got better, and the third one I got it. Finally, I worked it out. Same act, just did it better. And I had the octopad with the ping pong balls. I had this guy called Meredith. He I was living with him. I met him through someone at Jongleurs, I think. I think at the time his girlfriend, no, I met him through his girlfriend. She was from Yugoslavia, and she was this dark, mad, abstract painter. Intense. And he was her boyfriend. And she said, I was looking for a room. And she said, oh, we have a room. So I was living there. It was right around the corner from Circus Space on Caledonian Road, not far from King's Cross. Really dark and gray. It was what a place. And he used to live upstairs. I never saw him except usually 11 o'clock at night, midnight. He would scroll down like a rat with gray, without bad complexion, and he would come in and he would cook potatoes in the microwave. he only ate potatoes, and then he would, all right, and then he'd go creep back upstairs. And that was my relationship. Then I got to know him and found out, he's a keyboard player. So then I got him to play the keyboard to link me with the Octopad. You remember the Octopad? It's got like squares, drums.
Yeah.
Like 8 square.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was in a music shop and I noticed it, and I thought, boom, boom, I was really interested. So I spit a ping pong ball. It was like, in the ping pong ball at high velocity would ignite the sound, even better than hitting it with your hand. I don't know what it was, And so I was spitting ping pong balls on the Octopad and getting sounds. So to me that was quite cool, because then it was like juggling, linking with some other action, some other sound, some other effect. And so then that was cool. Okay, I thought, right, got the Spanish guitar, the ping pong ball, Octopad. I put sounds effect. And also when I was playing the guitar, I wanted to have some musical support. So he would do like this chorus sound. And so I would do like, if I was doing like, he would do, I can't do it. I was doing this kind of a bad gypsy singing and trying to look real, not like that. So it looked like I doing a little bit gypsy, flamenco. It was bullshit, actually. I wasn't really doing any flamenco. But that did Jonathan Ross. And I sorted out the beginning. The camera was on a unicycle playing the guitar. So I got them to follow me in the front row, riding along the unicycle into the camera. And then the camera backed away, and I went back on stage. And then I did this thing where just like left it like a kind of pendulum, and then did a gag, hit myself in the chin, and then I went to the ping pong spinning, and then the finale, I went to the ping pong Octopad, and then did a bunch of that and Gypsy Kings at the end. Yeah, just got it just right. That was one of the best moments, honestly. Didn't get much better than that moment.
Was that because you feel like you honed your craft?
It was at that moment where all that honing in that number, those things that were different, and then working it out technically, and the performance and the timing, and still some improvisation and reacting with the audience like we learn as street performers, and everything worked, And rarely have I felt like that. And it was also because I was still mainly a solo, so I felt that's something, and in those moments you look back. Is this a very narcissistic conversation?
No, not at all. We're talking about your life story.
I know.
It's not narcissistic to talk about your life.
We are, aren't we? Entertainers are a bit narcissistic. My daughter asked me the other day, do you think you're a bit of a narcissist? She said it very nicely. And I said, what do you mean, like Trump? She said, no, but you always make referrals to yourself. I said, you're right. And I started catching myself how many times I do that. So, but now I know we're interviewing, so I don't know.
This is the appropriate time for you to talk about yourself. It's
a love-hate with social media, and even this. I'm always like, you're trying to balance, trying to be a better person. And anyway, we are talking about that. So, okay. So, did Jonathan Ross, and then remember getting lots of calls, and at that time I had a new agent, Glynis Henderson, who had already asked to do a gig uh, with Ennio Marchetto. She was representing Ennio Marchetto, and she had Stomp. And like I knew she was a big agent, and then someone had told me about her. Someone from a TV show. I was asking them, "Do you know what do you do?" Because the thing was, this is for younger performers. You know, it's none of us really like to do the business shit, and we want to just be the artists, performers, and we want to like. So to me, I always had this like one foot. I was really happy to be a kind of hippie type person, you know, just enjoy the beach, enjoy traveling, enjoy the performing, have time off, you know. It wasn't about earning huge amounts of money, building a castle, having walls around me, and make myself so important like the fool on the hill, and then you're separate from life. It was about, you know, just engaging and going these festivals around the world and, you know, learning languages and all that. But on the way, we had to, you had to like, you know, there was a fear that you could lose that moment, and you're not going to get the contacts out of it, because it's always about, you know, first you're going to have a show that's worth people wanting to have, but it's also about contacts, as we know. And so I would make sure when I was in a certain situation, I would ask people like, do you know any agents you think are, but I would only ask that of certain people if I felt comfortable, if it was a good vibe, or I might ask another artist, or you just get your ear to the ground so you're figuring out, you know. But so Glynis Henderson came up as a name, as someone who would be really important. And before that, I had a manager called Jeremy Lee, who has a company called Jeremy Lee Associates, which they do like corporate gigs and stuff. Which he was my manager. He's quite high level, but to be honest, we weren't suited. I wasn't really getting more gigs. And you know, the downside is sometimes.
Why do you think you weren't suited? Do you think you weren't suited because he was in the wrong market, he was looking for the wrong places for you, or you didn't mesh as human beings, or?
Well, I was trying to be nice. Basically, I don't think he went out. I don't think he actually tried enough to get gigs. I think he had enough things happening, and it felt like I was just bringing him gigs and he would make a commission, you know, at the time. But he might have a different point of view. So, nice enough person. We got along really, really well, and he did get me some stuff. But I just felt at the end it wasn't really working. And it was always like, you know, when you get an agent, you know, is that agent gonna get you more work? You don't mind them making their commission, because if they're not making money, they're not gonna get you work. But it's more about, you know, or is it just that they want exclusivity and then they're making their commissions and they're not doing a proper amount of work? It's also the artist's responsibility. You know, you have to keep making sure you have the videos, photographs, press, getting reviews and critics, you know, the classic kind of stuff to promote yourself. But anyway, let's jump fast forward. So I was telling you about Jonathan Ross, right?
Yeah. Wait, you said, did I tell you about Jonathan Ross? And I don't think we heard Jonathan Ross yet. I don't think so, anyway.
Yeah. So when I ended up doing that show, just everything started clicking.
So the show came together. Yes, you did. My apologies.
Yeah,
very sorry.
Yeah. So everything started clicking, and eventually, so I had the new agent. We just had a baby, Sandy, and Rosie was born, and just life was. I just never thought it would be so good. I was really. A lot of people were surprised, you know, considering my life in Virginia. I never had money. I was a little wild Mowgli boy. My mom was a lovely but manic depressive, crazy Moroccan Jewish lady. My dad was never around. Bless him. He used to take me fishing on Sundays. He used to come to football. But we were very a perfectly dysfunctional family, you know. And to think that I would find street performing, and then come to London, and then all of a sudden have this career was just unbelievable. And then a family that was like, I pinched myself. But from that time, going from Jonathan Ross, and then we did like The Happening, Jules Holland. That was interesting because we got this gig. We did 2 of them, but I wanted to do something new. All the time, whenever there was a gig, I remember I got to make something new, you know, and I get really excited. And so the new thing that I had in my head was I was going to get a 4-foot grapefruit. It was a grapefruit. Yeah, because I was juggling grapefruits. So I wanted to get a huge, big grapefruit, and I was going to get inside of it like a rat, and I was going to roll on stage, big fruit. That was in my head. And then I remember thinking I was going to come out of the orange like a baby, and then like an infant, and then break through and be part human and part fruit child. So that was the concept. Are you still there?
I'm here, yeah. So you were becoming a fruitarian.
Exactly. Fruitalist.
Yeah.
So the thing was, I would talk about this like we were talking now. I would just constantly be thinking like, oh, I could do that. What about that? But then I actually went and did it. You know, the stupid part. So I went to get this. I did my research. There was a guy in East London in his laboratory. He can make everything. All right, I called him up. Yeah, sure. We discussed the plans. He'd make it out of fiberglass. Cool. I went down there to have a look at the work. I had to pay some money in advance. As soon as I walked into his place, it was full of chemicals. And then his parrot attacked me. It started biting me. I went, fuck. And it's literally the parrot was attacking me. And he's laughing, right? And he couldn't stop laughing. And this fucking parrot's biting me and attacking me. And I just thought, bloody hell. And I said, can you get this parrot off me? And so he takes me and he's just laughing. And I said, oh, that's funny. He said, yeah, sorry. He's just, yeah. And I just thought that was really cruel, you know, that he would set his parrot on me. Anyway, I think it was because there was lots of chemicals that it changed his mind a little bit. Once I got through with the parrot attacking me, then I don't know why I told you that. I just thought it would be funny if you.
It's funny. It was funny. Please, thanks.
Yeah. It wasn't at the time though. Then I saw what he was doing, and he made this huge fiberglass, and it was like, wow, you know, there it is, my dream, my spaceship, my fruit spaceship. So eventually I got it. I put it on. We had to carry it. The problem later was it was too heavy to transport, so then I had to keep spending more and more money to transport it. But anyway, I used it for the Jules Holland thing, and so I got the music from the planets, from the planet music, and I rolled out. At the time, Boothby Graffo, we were living together, and so we were there, and we were making these fruit. Fruit had like baby dolls, like little infant baby dolls, naked, and we would take the head off, and then we put like a fruit head, so it was like a fruit baby, right? And we were in the place, like, and we were doing like we did a recording, so we would have the music from planets, and then we had like a birth of the fruit babies coming out of the fruit with the recording. And so I did like a little Punch and Judy with the fruit babies. But as we were working on this, Charlie Lino, who you had interviewed, he was just spacing out. I think he was doing some partying at the time, and he was freaked out because we were there and we had piles of like broken baby dolls and fruits in the living room, you know. So it was a bit much for him.
It's a weird thing to see when you've partied hard and just come home.
Mutilated fruit babies thing. But that that was weird. And Jules Holland actually played Love Story for the fruit, the thing, and yeah, that was just a really good time, man. You know, all of a sudden we're doing gigs. There was Roy Castle. There was it was called Save the Children, and I played a clown, like a mime clown, Grimaldi, and juggled, and then he did the song 12 Days of Christmas, and I did Five Golden Rings, and I was like, I'm at like Albert Hall, man. I mean, it wasn't like a big, like, it wasn't my gig. It was just I was a hired juggler, but hell, man, 2,000-3,000 people, royal family, all this stuff, and I had to nail 5 rings, and I did it really fast. I didn't go on it much longer than that. It was just too scary, but managed it. But got to know Roy Castle backstage, and I'm sure like doing name drops because it's another world for me now. I don't do that kind of stuff anymore, but. That was pretty amazing. I toured with Trev and Simon. They were like children TV celebrities at the time. And that was a really cool tour around England. We did really big events because they were like big stars from TV. But, England was the place where it all happened, really. And for 3-4 years, until we did the London Mime Festival. That's when Bill Bailey was at Jongleurs.
Well, I was going to say this. You're a trio now.
Well,
I should mention actor this time.
Yeah, I went from this to the solo thing, and then I started to work with my friend Alex Alessandro Bernardi, Menace from Venice. He should do your interview, by the way. You should have him. Yeah. And he knows lots of people. And we were friends. We met at Covent Garden. He used to perform with Charlie Lynham as a duo called Los Primos. And I loved what they were doing. They really inspired me a lot because I watched Charlie, his panpipe and singing, and Alex, the guitar. They were just having, Kai was on the bass, Canadian. And, like these were like these other acts, they were the music acts, and there was like Dr. Stewart doing a juggling act. And I was just very fascinated by non-juggling acts and just seeing, I loved mimes. I loved just seeing the whole spectrum. And we became friends. We played chess. We got high together, hung out together a lot. We were in Glastonbury, and I used to have this little speaker, ghetto blaster thing, and it broke down. Yeah, it broke down at Glastonbury. So basically, I didn't have any music, and I never liked to just do an act without music because I always liked the music to kick it in, the juggling, so I asked him to do the gig, and so he said, yeah, okay. I said, yeah, just play guitar, maybe, what songs okay, well, we could kick this in when I did juggling. So he basically played the guitar sitting in the back, just playing, in his persona, and it went really well, and I loved having another performer on stage. And it wasn't as scary. You had live music when you wanted. And eventually I got him to come up front, put ping balls in his mouth, flip the guitars. And then we, had that double effect. Not just myself juggling and interacting, but I had another person. The live music went up. The relationship went up. He had an amazing operatic voice. He would hit really like high notes and like a proper opera, proper upper stuff. He's from Venice. Yeah. He used to sit around with his dad, and they would I met his father and mother. They're still alive, and we would have dinner. They came to visit London. We would be having dinner, and after the dinner, him and his father would start singing opera, right? Just and it wasn't no discussion. They just started singing, so it was soulful, And I'm watching them, and they're both singing the top of their lungs, and their faces are turning purple and red, and they're holding these notes. But inside, it was like the son showing the father, I can sing opera as good as you or stronger. But it's also sharing, but it's also that kind of wanting to prove that I'm there too. I mean, have you ever sat around and had dinner and then see a son and father belching out operatic notes?
Never.
Yeah, but why would you?
I've heard the belt out Anglo-Saxon, but that's quite different.
but it'd be like, "La-dee-da-dee-da-da-da," like really loud, close to you. And so I thought he was lovely and quirky, very, very unusual person. He was like Buster Keaton, and then he would do these crazy things. So we started to work together, and then I was looking for a third person, and to bring more music. And then Bill Bailey said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then we did London Mime Festival. Funny enough, Jeff McBride was there, and that was really the beginning of Olé. It went from me and Alex doing a duo, 2 years off and on, and then into that. And then we had Adrian Love from Brett Love, the Love Brothers. They were doing like love songs and stuff around Covent Garden. So he joined. We had an amazing trip in Arkhangelsk, Russia. I'm going to pause for you to jump in, but I'll tell you that story if you want.
No, please tell me the story. I'm engaged. The last thing I want to hear is my own voice.
Oh, come on, Matt. Where are we at? Are we following chronological? Are we there? I think last time
we're almost in chronological order. The last time we jumped around a lot. I think you're being so much. You've paid a lot more attention to chronology during this interview, which is appreciated. It makes my poor little mind work a lot less to follow.
Yeah, I know. You have to be like a subject referee, keeping it on the plot, keeping it on the roadmap. There was, we did, they don't know this, we did a second interview, but I had not slept for 36 hours and I was just all over. And I wanted to remember the chronological part because I fly off too easily. But yeah, so basically from John Williams from 86, 87, then doing solo stuff, then Glastonbury doing this act with Alex, then us doing a duo, and then leading up to London Mime Festival. But just before London Mime Festival, we did a West End run. Ennio Morrocos was the main top act. And he was getting really big in England, and we were his support. So we did like 45 minutes. It was called the Whitehall Theatre, just next to Covent Garden. Are you a duo? Trafalgar Square.
Are you a duo?
We were duo. We were duo at this time. Yeah, we were duo. And then we got some. Things were really moving. I mean, honestly, that's when I felt everything was possible in England at that point for me. But I kind of came to a fork. But I'll come to that in a minute. How many minutes do we have left so I can frame my timing?
So it's. If you want to do the full 4 hours, we have at this moment
1 hour, full hour, not 4 hours.
Well, 4 hours is the maximum we can do.
1 hour. 1 hour.
If you want to do 1 hour, you've already done 1 hour 42 minutes. So
are you shitting? We've done 1 hour 42 minutes.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. The time does fly.
Okay, so let's finish it up at 2 hours. Otherwise, it's boring.
I don't think you have to, mate. If you want to finish a story, everyone here is engaged. You've got the biggest viewership at the moment that you've had the entire show. People have been, collecting up as you've been talking. People are say in the comments if you disagree, but I think we're all engaged in the story. If you've got the time, we can do.
I'm fine.
We should be able to fit it in there if you want to do that.
So, how many minutes up to 2 hours?
So we do 2 hours 30. You're watching a negotiation happening as we're doing the interview.
How much time have we already done?
1 hour 43 minutes.
And where should we cut it off?
We can do 2.5 hours. We do 3 hours, as I said. For me, I'm happy to see you
30 minutes. Good.
As long as you like to speak.
Okay, let's finish it in 2.5. I think that's just demanding too much attention, and we can always do another one. No, I was kidding. I think you have had enough of me. Would it be funny if we talked about how long to do for 30 minutes and then it's time to go?
Well, it's a challenge, but I think we can achieve it. What should we time it on? Yeah. I have a clock behind me. We can use that.
All right. Well, it's just quite nostalgic for me, so it's good. If I was to die tomorrow, at least I got it out, so that's good.
Well, Roberts is saying in quite an impassioned typing, he's saying, "Don't stop."
Who said that?
That's Bobo Roberts. He's a circus clown. We've got David.
Yeah. We chat a lot on that. Listen, people should know that I don't actually see you, by the way. I'm just looking at some circle that I think that's where you are.
Yeah, but you don't get the comments. As I said, the comments flooded in.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, and thank you so much for listening, all you guys. You're so lovely. So if you asked any of your interviewers, any of the performers, like what were the most interesting gigs, I would have said Arkhangelsk, Russia. I would have said Daidoge, Japan. Glastonbury. Probably this gig in Finland, in Imatra. And probably this other gig in Berlin. But
we got 45 minutes, so we got to be a little bit more constrained with time for this one to get your story out for this. I mean, we can do it again. I'll be happy, but I want to bloody know it. So you're doing a double act. You've begun doing a triple act now, and now you've started touring this triple act.
Yeah. So we had a gig with. So when I was at Jongleurs, I was telling Bill Bailey, and I said I want to do this. It was for London Mime Festival, 91, I think. Just before we were about to do that, we were planning on doing it. We got this festival. No, sorry, we had already started working with Bill Bailey. Yes, we had done the London Mime Festival. I had this gig in Limburg Straat Festival, which is Limburg near Germany, Holland. It's Belgium. It's like three tri-country. Amazing gig. This was the other great gig. Basically, they had a group of performers, street acts, street shows from around the world, and they made this festival. And they had caravans in a big circle. So you'd get your own caravan. Each act would have a caravan. And then there was a fire in the middle. There was a place where you ate. And basically in the daytime you go out.
When you say caravan, you mean the European caravans, the big wooden, large wheels, kind of traditional trad caravans?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't see them in England anymore, just so people that can understand. They're these huge wheeled, big old wooden, like you'd seen in a Walt Disney cartoon of someone being drawn.
Yeah, there might have been some semi-modern mix, but yes, they would be like gypsy caravan type things. Could be mobile homes or more caravan, but it was I remember like going in the daytime. You'd go in the street and you do your gig. Sometimes there'd be a stage on street, sometimes there'd be street. And I brought a whole ensemble. I was trying out different ideas. I had a guy who played sax, flute player from Ireland. Actually, he was Swedish and Irish. And Bill Bailey came. Alex was there. And I had... Did I tell you this before about the London ambulance? Did I tell you about that last one?
No. Did you buy a London ambulance? It was the best car you ever liked. But I think that was in the interview. We didn't broadcast that one at the end. But
okay. That was not the first segment. Okay, so basically at this time, I was trying out different shit just out of, I was completely immersed in not only the show but life with the show and living it. So I got this. I bought this London ambulance, which I always thought were cool because they got a lot big space, big windows. Unfortunately, they break down a lot. But I changed the word ambulance to ambiance. So I had a London ambiance. And so I envisioned like arriving at the festival. It was part of the act because I wanted to have a reason to have it as well. And so the idea is that we would ride around and ask people, have you seen an accident? Excuse me, have you seen an accident? No. And the people would look at you confused, like, sorry? I said, someone was hit, you didn't see anybody on the ground, like dying, or no? Sure. Okay. All right. Sorry to bother you. And then we go off and, excuse me, have you seen an accident? And that was part of our, we were laughing a lot ourselves. And then eventually we would arrive wherever the gig was going to be.
Yeah. Oh, and just scratch your nose, mate. Perfect. Carry on.
Yeah. I'm not doing anything. Really, I'm not.
No.
So we had so I got this London ambulance. We had we would basically show up, and then we would like we'd ride. you got me paranoid about my nose now. We'd ride in, and then we'd throw out a watermelon out the door, and then the watermelon would split. We would then come out. We had an ambulance sound. We'd come out like doctors. I'd have a chainsaw, and we just do like mad stuff, and we'd go around and draw circles around where the watermelon fell, and we would like treat it like a death, a mystery, and then we would go into the act from that. It wasn't so logical. But we had a gig in Northern Ireland. It was called the Impact Festival, and Bill Bailey came, Alex came, James came. And so I'm driving the London ambulance in Northern Ireland. This is when there was a lot of English military there. You know, we're still going on with bombs and stuff. So it was a bit risque, you know, but I love that kind of edgy stuff. And then we did like
you guys, when it was risque. Were you all worried? Was it an adventure together? Did you feel solidarity? What was it? There's an experience.
So we're going to a festival, first of all, Impact. And, you know, they were trying to promote culture over division and war. So, yeah, we were definitely all together on that. Yeah, there was a camaraderie. But, you know, mainly we were going to the gigs. We'd go to the pub and, you know, just enjoy ourselves. But the surreal thing was we did have a London ambulance with the name Ambiance. And there was a bomb that went off right near the London Ambiance. And it was in a bank. I was at the time I had just done a workshop with Protestant and Catholic children as part of the cultural outreach, and I had guitars and props. I was just going inside my London ambulance, and then there was a bomb that went off, and it freaked out and it rattled the ambulance. And I looked out the window and I'm seeing like bricks in the building kind of falling, and then I hear the siren going, the police. And then everybody scattered, and you know, and I'm just hiding inside the London ambulance, looking out the window, like it's just another level of surreal. Eventually, I got out of there. Okay, next day normal. One point we were going.
Same you were when the bomb.
I got a little. I did get a tinge of like, oh, and I did think maybe because I was in the London ambulance, I could be a target as well. But it didn't get that far. But another moment, the London ambulance broke down.
Did they damage the ambulance?
No. It was it was just the bank in front. The ambulance was fine. But another time, the ambulance broke down, and there was English military guys, and I asked them, "Could you help give us a push?" And so you had like three of the guys. You had two guys pushing with us because it kept breaking down, and you had one guy looking constantly out, you know. And that was quite surreal that the English guys were pushing the London ambulance with a rifle. And then one night, this was the big one, we got a bit drunk and we were driving back and I was lost. And we lost and I was a bit swervy, a little bit pissed. And then I just turned in one place. It was very dark. And then I just heard Bill or James say, no, not here, not here. I said, what? And so I drove into this place and it was pitch black, and then poof, all the lights went on, and then like 7-8 guys with rifles pointing at us, right? And I mean, this is like in a neighborhood which apparently you don't normally do this. You don't cross this line. These are like no-goes, but I didn't know that. It just felt at any moment they could have like shot the guns. And then Alex Alessandro Bernardi, he jumped out and he said, "Don't shoot, I'm Italian," you know. And that was good because that disarmed them a bit, which is typical of Italians to surrender early. There was a really tense moment. That was really tense. But okay, we explained to them we're part of the festival. But yeah, that is kind of like those moments are gold, man. It's like yeah, always on the edge. That's a little bit like I was talking about that thing about half empty glass, you know. It's like, you know, you just push it a little bit too far, you know. You just start thinking that this is reality, you know. And it's great. It's great too. I'm glad that we did shit like that. Otherwise,
so what was next after traveling around in the van? Did you solidify the concept of Olé?
No, these are more like festival stuff. But let me just now after that, after we did London Mime Festival, which was me, Alex, Alessandro, and Bill.
Just very quickly, Bobo asks, what was Bill like? And I must admit, I'm quite a Bill Bailey fan as well, so I'd be interested. What was it like working with the guy?
Yeah, and I don't mean to do name drops, but it's part of the history. And he was
100%.
like in the first, and he was in the first Olé, so it's worth to mention him. He was lovely. I mean, he's like, when I met him at Jongleurs, he just he was very natural. And the kind of funny expressions he does when he talks to you, he's like, he really is like that, you know.
They're not stage expressions.
You know, all right. And he was like, what? Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to call his spirit back. He just was naturally gifted with expression and really nice person, very engaging. He had another side of him that was really quiet and shy. That you didn't realize, but most of these stand-ups they do have a side that is very quiet. Yeah. In fact, he got. I used to visit him in his house in Hammersmith before he was famous and stuff. And his wife, by the way, made our fruit costumes for Edinburgh Festival later. No, for London Mime Festival, which we wore later in Edinburgh. But they were like fruit costumes.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, because the fruits were a big thing, So I was like really into this idea of fruits like nationality. So I had like the banana, the lemon, the orange, and so Alex was dressed up with the banana costume, like a banana operatic, and it was beautifully done, the costumes. And then Bill was the Frenchman, the wino, had glasses of wine and grapes, lovely. And it was called Paul Morocco and the EC Big Band. That was the name before Olé, which was basically the idea is that we were from different, like the East, like European community. So we were trying to be together, but we had conflicts, and we would, and this was the main idea. So I was the General Naranca, so I had like oranges. I had like a general with orange epitaphs. Like once you go into an idea, like you just really go into it, and it gets really interesting. There,
and what was the writing like then? Were you all cooperative? Were you working together? Was it a writer's room? You sit and do stuff? Did you workshop it in a practice space? How did you develop the pieces?
Well, that time I had the stuff I had for my solo, which was the fruit story, which was the ping pong and the guitar, flamenco ping pong. Then there was the tennis racket. There was the fire juggling. But then I started expanding the guitar stuff because we did Brighton Comedy Festival. We also had the London ambience I took there, which, by the way, I used to juggle fire on top of it, and then I would fall through the ambulance, the top. I had the door would fall through. It happened by accident, and then I kept it in the act. But so when we did specifically the London Mime Festival, I remember. So I had my main columns, the juggling part, and so what we wanted to do is we wanted to expand the storyline. So in the beginning, the three of us were just sitting on the chair and looking at each other, and then I was doing a kind of a. So we just kept tension, and then at one point I would like lean back, then they would copy me. I come forward. Then I put my leg out, and we did that. And we had ping pong balls in the mouth. This is a bit we did for Sky, the Sky channel. It was we were trying things out, workshopping it. I would tend to lead, showing things, and then other people say, "Oh, we could try this. Oh, we could try that." But But what I was trying to establish was three people at first, checking each other out with this kind of tension music, and then effect, gags, and then eventually each person would then have their feature, you know. So then we get to know that person, and then that person, and we understand the conflict. And this idea was around EC Big Band, so it was like different fruits as countries. So it wasn't specifically just French; it was French grapes. Yeah, it was great. No, the show wasn't perfect. I mean, there was lots of gaps and there's lots of things. And looking at it later, it's like really slow. But we were trying stuff. You know? We were doing stuff out of nowhere. You know, things that you would not put in the act and link up. I think I had my big orange then, and I pretended I was a fruit monster. Bill Bailey was playing, Alex was playing music, and then I was like sneaking around them. It's sometimes it's stuff that you've seen around. You've seen these kind of strange acts, and then you try to like assimilate it in your own way. Anyway, it all went really well. That was a really important point. Then Bill couldn't was going off to do his own solo show at that time because he was a duo up till then. And I remember him being really excited just to do his own writing, and he was telling me a lot. Wow, you should do this. You know, yeah, it's great being a solo and free and writing yeah, he was then he started to catapult into the person that we know. But let me tell you about this trip to Arkhangelsk. So during this time, we're doing different gigs, you know, festivals, London Mime Festival, corporate gigs, just, you know, gigging, little TV spots here and there. And so we had this gig in Limburg Slot Festival. And when we were there was a Russian group. And the Russian guy was called Victor, like a Russian bear. And then they saw the act, and I was a lot of juggling at that time, and had the band, and he said, the translator was there, and he said they're talking at first, and I'm like listening, and then she says, da, yes, da. And then she looks at me, she says, Paul, Victor, and then I look at Victor, he goes, Victor wants to know if you can juggle potatoes. And I said, you mean like he said, yes, you know, you make the show with the fruits. Can you make with potatoes? And I said, well, yeah, I could do the love story with potatoes. Yeah, I could. I said, it'd be nice if I could have at least a couple of fruits because, you know, and they're not so, but yeah. But it was a really serious question, you know. It's like, fuck, they don't have oranges in Russia? And later, when we went there, I realized, no, they didn't have oranges. It was really hard to get oranges in Russia. So I did have to juggle potatoes. I had a lemon and a lime. But so we had this gig that they booked us for. And it was the most extraordinary gig I've ever done. Probably if Haggis is still around, I remember when he went and did Georgia, and he said it was amazing. It was a peace trip, Jugglers for Peace, but it was one of those things that you just, after a while, all the gigs seemed quite similar, but this one just didn't act or look like anything I'd ever seen before.
Why?
So the first, well, just right from the beginning, we flew in to Moscow. And it looked like there's kind of like Dr. Zhivago, those old movies, you know. It didn't look like the West, and it was kind of exciting. And we're going to go up to Arkhangelsk, which is near Finland, so it's like the highest northern point I've ever went to. And really, at these moments, you feel like that's why you really want to do this, you know. It's for these kind of things, these like amazing things that go right off the chart. So we get to Moscow. The first thing I did is I had a form that I had to fill out about what's in the bags. And they didn't have one in English, they had one in French. So I thought, I speak French, I can do that. So they gave me a form, it said défense de weapon, défense de instrument, or something. Didn't say weapon, instrument. But I thought, they want you to list your props. So I listed all my props, 25. chainsaw, ping pong balls, juggling clubs, knives. I brought knives, all these things. And so I handed it in, and the Russian guy with his Russian hat, he looked at it, looked at me, and then he went over to another guy. He looked at the sign. The guy looked at him, looked at his rep, and he looked. Both of them looked at me, and I'm like, "What's going on?" So after about 10, 15 minutes, or 10 minutes, they came. Translator came, and they want to look in the backs, and then they wanted, okay, normal. And she said, "Well, apparently you've just listed 25 weapons that you're bringing to the festival," and so I realized my French wasn't so good because they were actually weapons and not things. So they went through ping pong balls, checking in the light, they did a chainsaw. Eventually we convinced them that there's nothing, no threat. But by this time we missed the flight to go. So they said, okay, never mind, we will take the train. We go on the train. Immediately getting on the train, they start to introduce us to people. Each train, there's like a guy, hello, America, America. And then it's very smoky. There's no window. There's no ventilation. And really quite hard, that one. And they want, upon meeting you, they want to have a vodka with you. So, of course, you're in a good spirit. You know, vodka, okay, no. And you have a vodka, and whoa, okay, nice to meet you. You go further down, and they go, there's a new guy, America. America. Oh, please. And they make a vodka. And so by the time I got near the end of the train, I'm at I've had 5, 6 vodkas. I'm fucking pissed, actually. And I'm like, oh. And this is like, whoa. And then we finally get to our place. I was there with Sandy. She was pregnant at the time. And they said, so we get in, and we're a little bit excited, but we're a bit tired now. And we said, what time do we arrive in Accra? They said, it's 6 o'clock. And I looked at it, it was 2:15, 4 hours. And then, okay, thank you. And then finds out later it's 6 the following morning. And then the woman comes in, like a big Russian lady, not very fashionable. She brings in a big plastic bag with our food. And it's got a big chunk of meat, some onions, some tomatoes underneath that are squashed, a bowl of cheese, and she puts it on the thing, clunk, on the table. And I just look at it, and Sandy, she's a vegetarian, she just said, And so I said, excuse me, and I asked the translator, can you ask if they have, my wife's a vegetarian. And then they said something, and the woman said vegetarian. She just looked at Sandy and she went, and just left pissed off, like, how dare you wanting vegetables when our country is starving. Anyway, so a long way there. On this train, there was, we just didn't get enough food as well. So I asked the translator, I said, is it possible we can get some extra food? She said, okay, there's someone on the train. I will find out. She comes back, says, yes, you can follow me. So we go there. Again, we're passing through. Again, the same, hello, more vodkas. We finally get to the end of the train, and here's a guy. He's a black market on the train. So all around him are cans of food, like full of food in cans. And he's sitting there, and he's got a bottle of vodka, smoking a fag, ashtray, playing cards. And he said, hello. And she explains who I am. And so, of course, we have like another vodka. Of course, I get a cigarette from him. And then they just choose some food. We pay him some money. I think I gave him some American cigarettes. And it was like something from a war movie, man. Like guy sitting on the train selling black market on the train. It just was like surreal. Anyway, all these things going on. We finally arrived. We arrived in Archangelsk. And the whole time I kept saying to her, are we going to have real Russian food? She says, yes, you will stay in the nicest hotel in Archangelsk. You will eat traditional Russian food. And I was like, wow, American enthusiasm. And upon arriving in the train station, the whole theater had come out dressed in the old customs of Russian, playing accordion music. It was a big deal. We come off the train and like, this is them saying hello to us. That was like beautiful, really. And from there, we went to, they took us to the hotel. Upon arriving in the hotel, The place looked like it'd been bombed out. The concrete was torn up. The lights were dark. Everybody was depressed. I went to my room, went to wash my hands. Rust came out. I went to the shower. The soap bar fell off. The rust came off the shower. And then I looked out the window, and I couldn't sleep that night. And it was 2 weeks of white night. It's really true. They had no darkness, and there's no covering the window. It was just very really exasperating, but you're excited. People were so passionate, man. They had nothing, you know. They had very little to do with materialism, but they had these big hearts. They were so excited you were there, and you just felt, wow, you know. As artists, to ourselves, we don't weigh up, be so significant, but for these people, we were really important, like the messengers, the shamans arriving, and it was just a beautiful time. Funny moments, like I had the potatoes, the juggling, you know. I did the normal routine. I throw the fruits out, and they throw them back to me. I threw the potatoes out. They never came back to me. They were very hungry. People were really, this was before perestroika, so people were really quite desperate. I couldn't get any water. I was dehydrating every day. They just didn't have water. In the theaters, they had, everything was beautiful. They had lovely chilled glasses of what I thought was water. I would go each time and vodka. This happened literally 12 times. I'm desperate for water. I go to drink the water, vodka, in chilled glass, beautiful glasses. And in fact, vodka means water in Russian. But yeah, they just didn't have water. It was very strange. And at the end, I had to do a deal with some guy to give him some cigarettes in exchange for a big jug of apple juice, raw apple juice, which I will always remember because I literally went to bed with this jar of, I just kept drinking and drinking and drinking. It was like I was drunk. I woke up in the middle of the night. There was my jar. And I just remembered drinking. Anyway, the most amazing, everything amazing, superlative. They took me to a music shop. There was no signs on the window. I go inside. It was, not that many products. They were allowing us to do some exchange. I got a brass tuba for about £1. I got a wooden African xylophone for £2, and a bar of chocolate was the same price, £2. Yeah, and like that shit just doesn't happen anymore. But it just magical, man. That whole thing that happened. That was 1990.
So, after you've had your experience in the USSR, you come back. You're forming and coalescing Olé into being kind of what it is today. How has that journey moved forward?
I think after the Archangelos, I think the big thing was everybody was going to Edinburgh, and so when I realized that Bill was going to be doing his solo, I really wanted Bill to do it with us, but then I realized we tried Adrian. He was musical, he was funny, but I realized that we needed a really a credible guitarist, a really high level Spanish flamenco-ish guitarist.
And why did you realize you needed that?
Because it's a guitar show. So in this case, you're presenting music, and the people need to see the credibility of the guitar. For it's like the deeper you go in this, the more serious you go on the technique, on the skill stuff, then you can be funny or whatever, but you have to also play the guitar. And I wasn't that guitarist. Alessandro was quite good. He did all that stuff. He was at quite high level. But then I met with Antonio Forcioni, who Alex knew, who invited to London Mime Festival, and he loved it because we were doing everything about guitars. But he's like, maestro. He's like musician at his level. He's got like 38 albums out. He used to play at Bungees. Another person you should interview, by the way, very interesting person. And he's gone really high level in jazz. He's He's quite a big name now in that scene. So, yeah, he loved the show. I got in touch with him, and the funny thing is, it's all kind of like circles, because when I was first time in Covent Garden with Jose Eduard, which I think I told you the last one we traveled together, he introduced me. He said, "Oh, these guys are playing the guitar. You should come. You should have a look at them." So that's when I saw Antonio Fuccione, Eduardo Niebla. Still to this day, if you can get their album, especially Antonio Fuccione, Eduardo Niebla, but also Antonio Fuccione, amazing stuff. Just wonderful music, man. Just alternative, instrumental. And I traveled with that music. It became like the soundtrack to our first tour of Europe, going to Munich, to Copenhagen, traveling through, and just, coming into a new city, looking through the windows of the Volkswagen van with his music going on. It just made like a film. And then finally we get settled, we engage, we do our show, and then at the end of the night we're exhausted, we're counting our money, we hit the road again, here comes the soundtrack as we look through the window, and it just made things melt like in a movie, you're going into that kind of dreamy part. And so Antonio Fuccione became like this big dream to work with, he's a guitar god. And so we started to work together in August, went to Edinburgh, and it was like, yeah, we immediately made some noise. Won a couple awards. Sorry to mention. It's part of the story. Edinburgh, Scotsman first fringe award. Then we got natural gas, and it was like we were happening, But funny thing is, we worked with a director who had won a Perrier a couple of years. I forget his name now. And we did a couple of weeks, and he did some good stuff, but it was a little bit slow. We went to Edinburgh within the first day. We had this theatrical thing, and I remember when we had to do a fast gig for a showcase in one of the clubs where you want to advertise. I remember cutting all that. I went right to bam, bam, bam. Antonio starts with the guitar. Oh, killer. Short, bam. Alessandro comes in. La di da di da da da. There's this opera. Bam, I come across with a chainsaw on a unicycle. Chainsaw because I saw it from Archaeos, Circus Archaeos. Wasn't my idea. And I come across, and it was like amazing guitar, amazing guy, opera, crazy guy with a chainsaw. Bam, the three guys are there. And then we compete with the guitar and then mix the music and all that. And from that, we got to do Just for Laughs. Just for Laughs was in 95, I think it was. And that's when we went off to do Cologne in Germany, a TV thing in Cologne, and that put us on the map. Just for Laughs was the biggest thing that kick up the global brand show, because at Just for Laughs they put it out to 12, 15 countries, and so all of a sudden Russia, France, Germany, everywhere was showing this clip from us.
Was Just for Laughs when you did it just another one of those gigs, or was it something special? Did it feel like something special?
Just for Laughs was huge. I mean, I think after, it was probably the most important gig after Edinburgh was the most important gig. If you get chosen for Just for Laughs, you're on an honors list, of people that that they deem worthy. And
you think that you got passed through there. Obviously, you've had a career behind this, a huge career behind this. But do you think it was the awards in Edinburgh that conveyed you to Just for Laughs, or?
No, the awards thing just helps because you get you get mentioned and stuff. But what was really amazing was when I went to Edinburgh, things were like really, really hot and heavy at that moment because we were doing TV spots. We just did Brighton Comedy Festival, so you had the same critics, newspaper people had seen you doing these things. Now you're going to Edinburgh. So they're already thinking about you, talking about you. And they actually I had a cool picture of me on a unicycle with glasses, and the unicycle was in the sea, Palma Mallorca. Those are the days, man. I arrived in Palma Mallorca for that gig I told you about, Jongleurs, the 2-3 days. I saw the beautiful water, and I went up and called a photographer, a local photographer, because I knew it would be a good photo, right? And I mean, that's like £300-400 that you're going to spend. I just did shit like that without knowing if it was really a good idea or not. And so but we had an amazing photograph. You know, it was me on a unicycle, sunglasses, and the wheel looked a bit like Salvador Dali was a bit melted under the water, and me with a guitar. And they put that on the cover of the City Limit, the Limits, I think it's called, City Limits, the List. Sorry, the List. And so that was like another kick, you know, for advertising. And yeah, we did really well. Not at the beginning. We started off with like 5-6 people, went to 15, and next and bigger. And then it's got full by the second, I guess, halfway through. Each year we went back 2 more times to Edinburgh. Each year you started higher. You started first year was like 5, whatever, 6, 7. Second year was like 15 immediately on your first day. Third year was like already 50, 60. So the more you repeated going there. But the Just for Laughs in 1995 was the biggest thing to launch us into the international scene. You know, that really did it. I could tell you lots of stories about Just for Laughs, but I think we're coming out of time. And you did say to me to tell you what happened since Jongleurs about the career.
I mean, the thing I'd like to touch on now then is, in the last 10 minutes we have, is you've reached success as a festival act, as a stage act, as a bookable show. You're now being booked around the world. What happens from here? What's the journey after you've got there? You've attained this accessibility to audiences and to making a living and creating art. What happens after that?
Well, the thing was, that was about the highest point. I think it's gone downhill since, in a way, but not really downhill. But I mean, that's too strong. It's gone. It's been like a bit of a roller coaster. But those moments, I think now I keep trying to get back to that feeling of Edinburgh, Glastonbury, Just for Laughs. There was just such a siege of it's like being high, man. It was just like the pinnacle, you know, where everything that you thought, that you pushed for, that you're going for, that you dreamt for, just was coming. It was like a dream coming true, you know, just amazing. But then basically my brother found out he had colon cancer in 1994. So we were at the 3rd year of Edinburgh. The audience, first day, 75 people. Wow. And there was a even more magical momentum where we felt this is getting better and better, you know. This is what you find in like people building careers. They get known, now they start growing, and everybody knows what, you know, about that. And then Glynis told me, she said, you know that you're on the list for Perrier, which means that, you know, you're being considered. So I was just, there was like that feeling, yeah, this could be our time, you know, because we never did like the big London. We didn't do our own show at London West End because at that time people weren't immediately going to London straight from Edinburgh. Now they do. If you do well in Edinburgh, you go straight. And then straight I get the call. Yeah, then I get the call. My brother's about to die, colon cancer, any minute. And it was just floored me. It was two weeks into Edinburgh, I think, or 10 days. And so I had to make a decision. Do I run this, stay here, or do I go to see my brother? And of course, you know, my brother was like my dad in a way. And so I did this crazy journey from Edinburgh I went to Glasgow, New York to Virginia. I remember writing a diary all the way through. My hands were shaking. I lost it later. And when I arrived, a friend was there waiting at the airport, 100 miles an hour to go. And I kept thinking he's going to die any minute, which was pretty profound. And then when I got there, 30 people outside the hospital, like he was some kind of president or special diplomat, world important person. It was really weird. And I went in there and I couldn't even say hello to these people I haven't seen for years. I just kept seeing my brother. You know, he might die any minute. So once I got there, he actually didn't die right away. It took 8 days. But so it was every day in the hospital there with my mom and my other brothers, and pretty profound thing. And then that changed everything because, you know, and then like surreally, he was a very successful business guy at a security guard company. He had a gay club called Offshore Drilling. very funny name, Offshore Drilling, bringing humor with darkness. And I actually inherited everything. He had $1 million insurance. So I essentially, after he died, was a millionaire. But I didn't want to play the game, and I didn't insist. And he had a girlfriend that looked after him, and she became the executor, and I just didn't want to fight over money. I just found that, like, it's one of the reasons I left America, honestly. Now I might have done it differently, but at the time. And so I owned a security guard company called Global Security. There's like a bunch of security guards there. They're like kind of guys with guns. They all signed up to the National Rifle Association. And there I was, clown artist from Europe, the owner of a security guard company, owner of real estate, all this stuff. I got an accountant. Every day I got P&Ls, my mom on the phone every day. And for like 7-8 years, I was managing my family with Sandy and Rosie. I was managing Olay. And I was managing this business from America, and I was just, I think that was the time I kind of lost it, and that set me off. It was just way too much. But became kind of a person I never thought I could be. I was just like on it, doing everything all the time. And I wasn't this hippie artist anymore. And so eventually, sold it, most everything off. Went back and forth, looked after my mom and my other brother, who eventually, they also died within 5-6 years. My dad died. So then I kind of became an orphan minus one brother. And from all this like amazing stuff to learning how to be alone, or my family, but learning that's when I think a lot of my crisis kind of hit. But the show kept going. Olay kept going. And I'm still here, so it's not gone terribly bad. I'm still performing. We still got the show going. I still want to be creative. I think what it's done to me, it's really, I think, that death defines life in a way. The closer you get when you've lost people very close to you, it definitely it not only defines, but it reminds you of life. And it does bring you to that place where whenever I get too down or depressed, honestly, I feel more and more grateful, more grateful about just being alive, even knowing we have so many friends and living life simple and stuff. That's what I've been doing now. I've got completely broke. There's no shows. I'm living in someone's apartment who's been very nice. We've become good friends. I'm supposed to be going back to England. I think they're going to accept me without a UK passport. I've got a gig in Germany later. And things just keep going, bro.
Yeah, bro.
That's it.
You know it.
but that's why I when I say about success, great, did all that, cool. I'm blessed, yeah. But the fact that we do it anyway, the fact that all of us do this, and then we check out, and that's a great thing to do with your life. That's already success for me, and I've always felt like that. I've never felt like a success means you become a famous name, and of course we all want to be famous. We want to be liked. We want we want to be on TV. We want to do shows. But tell me what you want to say in our last minutes.
So in the last minutes, I'd just like to say to everyone watching, thank you for watching, everyone. I think it's been a wonderment to you. I've really enjoyed doing it. I'd like to say thank you to all. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your stories. Thank you for sharing everybody. It really has been an absolute pleasure going through the stories of your life. And I look forward to hearing the stories after quarantine is ebbed away and we're back to living our lives.
That's nice of you, man. And thank you, man. Thanks for doing all these interviews and stuff. I'm just wondering now. I should do.
Let me look at one last thing.
Everyone
who's a patron,
yeah, tell me.
Everyone who is donating PayPal to the project. Thank you very much for keeping the project running. Thank you, guys.
Who are you talking to?
I was just talking to all the people that have supported the channel. Some people have gone to Patreon, some people have gone through PayPal, and they've helped pay for the bill, pay for the wine, pay for the phone bill, help buy it. I appreciate that. It really helps me.
finish on just. I was gonna. So I knew one day this would come. I waited all my life to find my home. Bag of fruits and a Spanish guitar. Some unknown African American one day said, "You're gonna go far." Little did I know. Little did I know I would stay so far away. From all I loved and knew, but that's the way this bird flew, sleeping in vans, one-man band, foreign faces, foreign places. I learned to speak inside. Sang my well song, Virginia Beach child, like full of Solomon Wild, changed the country, changed the money. Humans are all the same. Ask why and seek funny. Boyhood fantasy, practically no chance to survive, but we keep on keeping on, rambling, gambling, keep going with the same song. Papa was a Rolling Stone. Finally I lay my hat. Do I have talent? This is my way home. That's it. Ciao, man.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye, everybody.